building a better Bay Area. Moving forward, finding solutions. This is ABC7 News.
Hi there, I'm Kristen Z. You're watching Getting Answers live on ABC7. We always ask questions of experts every day at 3 to get answers for you in real time. Today, we're following the latest developments in San Francisco after one person was killed and another injured after a shooting on a Muni train. SFPD says it happened just before 10 o'clock this morning inside a train that was running between the Forest Hill and Castro stations. When the train stopped at Castro station, the gunman ran off. SFPD officer Catherine Winters says this shooting does not appear to be a hate crime targeting the LGBTQ community.
I also want to assure the community that this incident does not appear to have any connection to Pride events or does not appear to target the LGBTQ community. So I really want to make sure that our community members and visitors who are in town for Pride Week understand that.
All right, well, the suspect is still on the loose, at least we think. No arrests have been made at this hour, and Officer Winters is joining us with the very latest on the investigation. Thank you so much for making the time to update our viewers. Officer Winters, let's bring our viewers up to speed. Is everything back to normal as far as the stations that were closed? Have they reopened?
Yeah, Kristen, so Muni announced, I think it was about 45 minutes ago or an hour ago, that Castro Station is open. Trains are moving through the station, but there are still some system delays because of it.
Okay, good to know before the afternoon commute. Now I want to get to the gunman, because last we talked, the person had run out of the station, had not been captured. Give us what you know so far about the gunman or suspect description.
Yeah, so the only description we have so far is an unknown race male wearing dark clothes with a hooded jacket. Investigators are still collecting video evidence to go through that, so hopefully we will get a better description not too long from now.
Is there an active search still going on in that neighborhood or elsewhere?
There are no door-to-door searches or active searches in that immediate area. Right now, investigative efforts are focused on trying to get an identity on the suspect so that we can focus on trying to find the individual responsible for this.
All right, and as such, you might be able to get some help from witnesses, right? Because there were people on the train. I assume you're talking to people who have reached out. Do you have something set up, a tip line?
So we do have the SFPD tip line, which you already have up for our viewers, of 415-575-4444. And they can also text a tip to tip 411. And when they text a tip, start it with SFPD. We really do ask anyone who may have been on the train and may have left after the incident who has photos or video to let us know and make that available to us so we can help locate the individual that's responsible for this.
You know, I'm wondering, it's been about 5 hours. Why have we not seen a picture of the suspect yet, perhaps from any video you might have? We do know that the stations have video. You had referenced that. What is happening?
I know investigators are working closely with Muni inspectors to pull the video from the train as well as the station.
Yeah.
And you know, investigators have to piece together all that video to determine which individual in that video is responsible for the shooting.
Is the shooting actually captured on video?
That I don't know yet. I know our inspectors are working closely to review and see if that was in fact captured on the video.
Okay, and are you telling me they're not certain yet from the video and the people that they see who was the shooter?
You know, I don't know the immediate steps where they're at in the investigation. But from what I do know is they're reviewing that video to see if it does in fact capture the moment of the incident. And to be able to see, you know, who the suspect was and what direction they may have gone.
All right. I was just curious because I feel like, you know, if you guys see it, you see a person running out, and especially if the shooting itself was captured, we maybe should have seen that by now. But okay, so no identity yet on the gunman, right?
Correct. No identity on the gunman.
How about on the victim? What do we know about the deceased person, the one who had the argument with the gunman?
We don't know a lot about the victim yet. The medical examiner is involved, and until there's been a notification to any next of kin or family, we're obviously not going to release the victim's name. We do have an idea that the victim was somewhere between probably 25 and 35. But that's really all we know at the moment.
All right. I remember in the morning you talked about there being a heated argument. Did these two know each other before their encounter today?
Yeah, that's something we're still trying to determine, whether or not the victim and the suspect knew each other, or if this was a random encounter that escalated to a violent outcome.
All right. What about the other person who was shot, the one that was injured? What is their condition, and what do we know about how they got shot and involved?
The best we can tell is they may have been a completely innocent bystander. From what we know, it's approximately 70-year-old male. They were transported to San Francisco General Hospital. The injuries are non-life-threatening. Last I heard, they were prepping an individual for surgery.
That's good. I really am glad to hear that it's non-life-threatening. Hope surgery goes well. Officer Winters, from your witness interviews yet that investigators have done, have they heard any more with regard to the actual confrontation and the shooting? Were there other passengers threatened? Did any passengers get involved to subdue the gunman? Can you kind of walk us through what you know so far when it unfolded?
In terms of what actually occurred and how it unfolded, that information hasn't been disseminated to me yet, just because of the nature of the investigation. Our investigators want to make sure that until they identify a suspect and probably have a suspect in custody, there's some things that they need to keep confidential in order to protect the investigation.
Do you plan to change anything in the days or weeks ahead in terms of police presence to try to deter crime on either transit or in that area of the city?
So obviously this is a huge concern especially for the LGBTQ community going into Pride weekend. San Francisco Police Department is already prepared to be staffed to ensure safety of participants and visitors coming to San Francisco for Pride weekend. This does really appear to be an isolated incident. Doesn't appear to be part of any other series of crimes. So we're really going to be focused on having increased patrols in the area where our visitors and events are going to be going on over the next several days.
Right. So what is your message for folks who might be coming to the Castro and celebrating? I mean, would you tell them that they are safe and that you are on high alert?
Absolutely. I would tell people that it's Pride weekend. We're going to have plenty of officers out on patrol in the area. Pride weekend is one of the best weekends in the city to come out and enjoy it. We will have plenty of police on staff. We don't see anything that would indicate there's any extra threats to people in the area, but always be alert. If they see something suspicious, see something that presents a danger, let us know so we can address it.
Look, although, when you look closely at the actual numbers, it does not seem to indicate that we are experiencing more gun violence in the city of San Francisco or on transit in general right now. But as a police officer, when you look out there and see these situations, do you still think there are too many guns out there in the public?
Anytime that we see gun violence erupt in the city, obviously it concerns me, because incidents like this put not only the victim of this, but everyone around them in danger. And we need to make sure that we are, working to prevent incidents like this. If if people know somebody who's, maybe wants to use a gun to do something, to alert the authorities. But in general, I think we just all need to work together to keep each other safe.
Yeah, you mentioned a good point about it's not just the people who are having beef, it's all the people around them. In this case, do you know on that train car how many other people were there?
I don't know how many people exactly were on the train car, but 10 o'clock in the morning, we can imagine there were probably a good number of people in that train car.
All right. And what about folks who are in that immediate area? Do you feel like the gunman is probably long gone? Is it safe to be in that area right now?
Yeah, there's no information to indicate the suspect is still in the area. I would assure the residents and visitors in the Castro that it is safe to be out. We saw no reason to do a shelter in place this morning, and the neighborhood is open, and I would encourage visitors and residents to to be out and enjoy this beautiful day.
All right, Officer Catherine Winters, really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. I know there's still a lot going on and a lot of that information is still coming in. Once again, that tip line, because you are seeking witnesses, anyone who can add to the investigation, give us that number again. I realize it's on the screen.
Yeah, that number is 415-575-4444. Or they can also text us at tip 411, and anytime they text us, start the message with SFPD.
Got it. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And coming up next, our coverage of the Muni shooting continues. A professor from Cal State East Bay will join us to discuss violence on transportation and what you can do to protect yourself. That's next. In commercial break. All right, folks, I'm going to regroup here. Thanks for joining us. Big breaking news day. I'm going to prepare for the next interview, and stick around. Welcome back. This morning's deadly shooting on a Muni train has many people on social media wondering if transit is safe, or is there something riskier about the environment? Numbers from Muni show crime actually has been steadily dropping since 2014 on the system. Violent crimes like assaults, robberies, and burglaries are all trending down. So you see the left side, that's starting in 2013, and you see things kind of peaked in 2014, and then the crime per miles actually steadily declined after that, and you can see in the last 4 years it's been below that projected line. So joining us now to talk about how to protect yourself and others on transit is Lisa Hill, Professor of Criminal Justice at Cal State East Bay. Professor, thank you so much for joining us.
Good to be here.
Look, here's the question. Has there been an uptick in violence on public transit systems, right? Because the perception seems to be yes, but the data seems to suggest the transit environment is not necessarily inherently riskier. What thoughts do you have on that?
I think that the data is probably true and reflects what's actually happening out there. The problem is we are seeing, with social media, we get to see everything. And so the perception that crime is increasing is what's influencing how folks feel about it. And it's increasing the anxiety that people are experiencing from what they perceive to be an increase in crime.
So is there anything people can do to both decrease their anxiety level and actually increase their safety while they are riding transit?
Absolutely. I don't think there's ever been a time where we should not have been vigilant, but I would say increased vigilance. Public transportation is an area where folks like to veg out. You know, they may have been after a long day and they don't have to drive, so they're sitting and they're not paying attention. A lot of folks have their headphones on, and so they're not really tuned in to their surroundings. I think it's important that we don't do that. We continue to be more vigilant to what's going on around us.
And let's just zoom out a little bit, okay? Because, you know, the shooting on Muni aside, when you zoom out and you see some of the things that are also going on, such as mass shootings, what we had in Uvalde in Texas at the school shooting, I know that you feel like getting ahead of it from an intelligence standpoint, to be able to head it off, is important. So tell us what you think law enforcement can do.
Well, increasing vigilant. You're absolutely right. When you take it in totality, it feels like, you know, you're just not safe when you go in the environment. And so with each one of these events, it increases that idea that we're not safe. Ideally, we would have more law enforcement presence. However, I know budgets preclude that from happening. And so it's really going to take the community deciding that they're going to take back some of the surveillance. It's real important that the community get involved with making sure that we're all safe. And, you know, there's this
and how do we
snitches get stitches. Go ahead.
No, how do we do that? How does the community get involved?
Speak up. You know, there's a lot of slogans that say, if you see something, report something. And that's not just a slogan. That is definitely a tool and an intervention to increase safety. You know, there's been shootings in every arena. I think it's going to be important that the community knows that they're able to file these reports or report what they see, maybe even anonymously.
You know, you talk about speaking up. That's a really good point. But what do you say to people who fear maybe flagging a person who turns out to be innocent, you know, risking retaliation or maybe libel, or maybe they fear that harm could come to that innocent person from an unnecessary police encounter standpoint, right? Especially if they're a person of color.
Well, absolutely. That is a consideration. That's a concern that we have in law enforcement. There is this, you know, we don't trust the system. That there have been folks that have been flagged, but for the most part, you know, it's really about convincing our community and redeveloping these relationships with law enforcement. So there is a sense of trust that, you know, a person that reports something, maybe their identity won't be revealed. It's really about the trust, getting the trust back between law enforcement and the communities.
And that's really not easy to come by these days, and it takes a lot of time in relationship building. But would you personally hesitate to take transit right now in the Bay Area, or do you feel perfectly comfortable?
I would not hesitate to take public transportation at this point, but I am aware that I need to be vigilant. You know, whereas I used to also kind of veg out if I were on a BART train. I know now that I need to be aware. Even if I have headphones in, maybe I'll just have one in so I can still be involved with what's going on around me.
That is a very good point. I won't do my Wordle while sitting on BART, right? Be aware, be present, be alert. And like you said, if you see something, say something. Professor Lisa Hill, Cal State East Bay, thank you so very much. Coming up next, the president has called on Congress to pass a gas tax holiday. But will it really happen? And how much will it really save you? And is there a downside? Those questions are next on Getting Answers.
Commercial break.
All right, everybody, I will be right back, especially with tips on how to save money on gas, so don't go away.
8, 7, 6, 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Today, President Biden called on Congress to pass a gas tax holiday through the end of September so that Americans can get a little relief at the pump for the next 3 months. Just take a look at today's prices in San Francisco, Oakland, and San Jose. These are AAA figures, and they show San Francisco has the highest average in the Bay Area, $6.51 a gallon. That's regular unleaded, and that is 26 cents above the state average. Real quickly, Oakland's at $6.48. San Jose, not much better at $6.45 per gallon. Joining us live now to talk about the pros and cons of a gas tax holiday is Patrick DeHaan, Director of Petroleum Analysis at Gas Buddy, a cheap gas finder app. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Patrick, the president has been eyeing this move for weeks now, and today he officially urged Congress to pass legislation to temporarily lift the federal gas tax that Americans pay each time we gas up. How much is this tax?
Well, the federal gas tax is 18.4 cents a gallon, and if implemented, I'm sure motorists will get that tax break in a matter of probably 3 to 10 days. It will take some time. It saves motorists on average probably about $2.50 to $5 a week. So not a massive drop, but a drop nonetheless.
All right. Of course, it depends on, the size of your tank there. But that's definitely something, and it adds up. But how much does it cost to the federal government? Like, how much are they giving up by giving it back to us?
Well, it's going to save Americans $70 million a day. And so it's going to cost the federal government $70 million over the course of 3 months. That's going to add up to $6.3 billion that won't be flowing into the coffers of the Highway Trust Fund.
And where does that money in the trust fund usually go? What does it pay for and buy us?
Well, that is what supports the federal spending on highways, bridges, infrastructure, everything like that, from rail to bridges to highways and roads. So the president has insisted that they will get money elsewhere to work on that. But obviously, still, the money's got to come from somewhere.
Got it. So to have a 3-month freeze on this tax, it's not like all freeway projects, for example, federally funded, would have to stop. They just get the money from elsewhere is the idea.
Yeah, that's right. This supports a wide range of things, bridges as well, crumbling infrastructure. But as the president alluded to, there are other programs that would likely continue. So, and the only good news is maybe potentially when it comes to the trust fund is that this measure is temporary. If implemented.
Yeah, I've also heard another argument against making this move, and that is that some say it could actually worsen the supply and demand imbalance and push prices even higher in the long term. Can you explain how that would be the case?
Well, exactly right. Part of the reason why gas prices are so high across the country is because demand is very high and supply is rather low. And when you incentivize Americans by lowering prices, more Americans are likely to go out, whether it's just 1 or 2%, it's an increase. And so at a time that supply is already constrained, you're risking tipping the balance even further. And that could eventually bite us in the months ahead should there be any issues at the nation's refineries.
Is there even any guarantee if they, made us not pay the gas tax for now, that we would actually save money at the pump? Because couldn't retailers or maybe the oil producers just jack up their prices more so that in the end we're still paying just as much?
Well, they could, but competition is very strong when it comes to gas stations. And that's why eventually one station would start to undercut its competitors, knowing it has an advantage. And that's why I have high faith that, very much like what happened in Georgia and New York and Maryland, states that implemented gas tax holidays, the same would hold true at the federal level. In all of those states where there has been a gas tax holiday, stations have passed along fully the drop in taxes.
All right. What about in California in terms of a gas tax holiday?
Yeah, now the president had been pushing states to follow along and issue state gas tax holidays. Yeah. In California, the state gasoline taxes amount to nearly 70 cents a gallon. So that would be quite something, but also it would be asking a lot for California to give up that tremendous source of revenue.
Wow. I mean, that is a lot. That's even more than the federal tax. Okay. Aren't we actually paying even more right now in the summertime in California? I think the summer blend.
Yeah, that's right. Across the country, or excuse me, across California at least, there's a even more stringent type of summer gasoline that's mandated by the Air Resources Board, which differs from what the rest of the country is using in the summer months.
Hey, how unprecedented is this, or has it been done many times before when the Americans are struggling and gas prices are high, that the federal government puts a pause on the gas tax?
I've never seen anything like it. The federal government obviously taking a very rare step to possibly waive this. The other question is, will Congress vote to pass this? That's the other big question. We've never seen it done in history, but this could be the first time.
All right, we got 1 minute left. I'm going to ask you two questions in one. What's the long-term solution and what's the short-term solution for us?
Well, I think the long-term solution would be, as we transition away from fossil fuels, to increase our energy security. Looking at temporarily increasing refining capacity certainly will not hurt. Secretary Granholm is going to be talking to refiners about that tomorrow. In the short term, Americans could curb their consumption, but that's proving very difficult amidst a relatively strong economy and very hot jobs market. Keep in mind, we're also coming out of the pandemic as well. So Americans have a very brisk appetite to hit the road this summer.
Oh, we have 20 more seconds. So where can we find the cheapest gas in our neighborhood?
Well, I would certainly encourage motorists to use an app like Gas Buddy, Google, or Waze. But across the Bay Area right now, the cheapest price, $5.75 a gallon at a wholesale club, the Costco. But there's a lot of sub $6 prices. The good news I'll leave you with is that prices should be coming down ahead of July 4. We could see them decline 10 to 20 cents a gallon between now and then. Patrick
DeHaan with Gas Buddy, thank you so very much. We'll continue to chat on Facebook Live. Take a short break. All right, Patrick, all great information. Thank you so much. I also wonder.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my God, I especially love the cheap gas tips. But are there things that we can do in the way we operate our vehicle that could also help save gas?
Yeah, absolutely. Things like slowing down on interstates. I know California has a lot of traffic, but slowing down 10 to 15 miles an hour can boost your fuel efficiency by 10 to 15%. Using things like cruise control, trying to slow down and coast to that red light, and avoiding heavy acceleration.
Aha, see? Okay, no jerky moves, right? Just kind of glide and let it neutral to the stop, if you will, right? All right, good advice. Well, thank you so very much. I hope you have a nice 4th of July, and we'll talk to you soon, and hopefully that trend will be going downward with the gas prices.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thanks much.
All right, folks. Wow, it's been a crazy day. I hope you're, finding cheap gas somewhere, or cheaper gas. I can't believe I'm saying cheap gas. Oh, it's in the $5s, so cheap. It was only like, what, a few months ago when we would have thought that was astronomical. So it's really tough right now. I hope you're hanging in there. All right, take a short break.
1 minute.
Thanks for joining us on this interactive show, Getting Answers. We'll be here every weekday at 3 on air and on live stream, answering your questions. See you at 4.